How's it going, guys? Dynamite here, coming to you as always from the Digital Warfare 24/7 forums, and today I am going to be bringing you guys a domination gameplay on Mirage. Now in this particular gameplay commentary I'm going to be showcasing two weapons that are some of my favorites from Black Ops 2, and those are going to be the Scar H and the AN94. Now obviously I'm going to be using the Scar H in this gameplay, as you can see, but the reason why I wanted to compare these two is that both of them have very similar characteristics. They're both going to have that low rate of fire and high damage that make them much more suited to mid to long range engagements. Now the other reason why I wanted to compare the two of these is that if you look at my Elite page, you can see that I have the exact same kill-death ratio with both these weapons, with about 1,400 or so kills, and also a very similar accuracy. So I was kind of curious to try to think for myself, which one should I choose between these two since they're so evenly matched. And that is exactly what I'm going to do here in this evaluation. So the first head-to-head matchup category that I'm going to delve into is going to be damage profile. Now the Scar H's damage profile was actually buffed in the last patch. It used to do only 45 to 24 damage, and now it does 45 to 33 damage. And what that does is that it ensures the Scar H is going to get at least a 4-hit kill. You're only going to kill in more than 4 bullets if you're shooting through a wall. Now, the Scar H's damage profile was also increased in range by about 14%. Now, if you want to think about that, it's the suppressor that takes away about 30% of your damage. So if the range has been increased by 14%, that's about half of that. So you can figure that it's cutting that damage reduction in half if you're using the suppressor. So that is going to allow the Scar H to kill with 3 shots out to an even further range than it used to. Now the AN94's damage profile is still pretty potent, but it's not nearly as impressive at 40 to 24 damage, and that is also going to come with less range, so you are not going to be able to kill in 3 shots at as long a range as the Scar H is going to. Another thing of note is that the Scar H's higher max damage will carry through walls better, and that is going to allow you to get penetration shots through to your enemies a little bit easier. So the Scar H is going to take a bit of an edge in that category, but moving on to rate of fire and time to kill, things are going to get a little bit more interesting. Now both the Scar and the AN94 both shoot at 625 RPM, but the first 2 shots from each burst of the AN94 shoots at around 930 RPM. So what this means is that the AN94 is actually going to have a faster time to kill if the player can get those initial shots on target. Now this is going to allow the AN94 to be more close range friendly. It's basically an answer to the SMGs that the Scar H maybe doesn't have. Now the Scar H does have that potential to kill faster, but that's only until its 3-hit kill range ends, and then at that point the Scar H is going to pretty much dominate. Moving on to the third category I want to compare these two weapons in, we're going to talk about the recoil. I would characterize the Scar's recoil as medium-high versus medium-low for the AN94, but it's worth noting that both these weapons have very controllable recoil, and the foregrip really probably isn't that worthwhile on either of them. If you are going to use the Scar in more of a designated long-range role, the foregrip could be useful, but certainly not on the AN94, which really has extremely controllable recoil. It really reminds me a lot of the AK-47 from Black Ops 1, although people hate people who compare the AN94 to the AK-47 since it's not technically its direct successor, but anyhow, I'm getting off topic here. I will say that the recoil becomes a lot more manageable if you add on a suppressor, because that is going to reduce your muzzle flash, it is going to allow you to see your targets better, and it is going to allow you to put shots on target better. Excuse me. Now the fourth category that I want to sort of overlook these weapons in is going to be iron sights. Now it's worth saying that both these guns have extremely clear iron sights, but I would say the Scars are definitely a little bit clearer. With neither one of them are you ever going to want to be equipping an optic, especially since you can use the suppressor to cut down on muzzle flash and get an even clearer sight picture. Now, reload speed is the fifth category I want to compare these weapons in, and it's worth noting that the Scar H has a very fast reload cancel. In fact, it's going to allow you to reload just about as fast as if you had a pistol, which is pretty darn impressive. So I would advise highly against using a magazine attachment on the Scar H. Now the AN94 has a decently fast reload cancel, but in my opinion it can still definitely benefit from a magazine attachment. Now talking about setups, I do think that suppressor and stock are probably the two key attachments to use on both of these weapons. But if you want to add that third attachment, on the Scar H, I would recommend Quick Draw to get your shots on target a little bit easier, or possibly Grip if you want to use that extended long range roll like I was talking about, or maybe even extended mags. Excuse me for just a sec. The old throat's getting a little scratchy. Now for the AN94, if you're going to add a third attachment to the suppressor and the stock, I would recommend again either Quick Draw and a pistol so that you can switch to the pistol instead of reloading, since the AN94 is going to be at a bit of a reload disadvantage, or you could go with just a pistol and not use primary gunfighter at all, or you could use either dual mags or extended mags. In this case I might lean a little bit more towards extended mags, since like I said, the AN94 doesn't really have that long of a reload. Now for perks, I would say red and blue perks are usually more personal preference and sort of reflect the type of class that you're trying to build. If you want to go for an objective-based class, flak jacket and tack mask. If you want to go aggressive, lightweight and dexterity. And if you want to go stealth, you can do ghost and dead silence, that sort of thing. But there is one perk that I want to highlight that is really, really good for these weapons, and that is going to be toughness. And here's why. When you're shooting a gun that has a lower rate of fire and a higher damage per bullet, if you flinch when the enemy shoots you and you miss one of your bullets, that is a higher percentage of your total damage output than if, say, you have a higher rate of fire weapon with a lower damage. So if you want to win your gunfights, you're going to have to make those few bullets you're shooting out count, and you're going to need to land them on target. So toughness is definitely going to help you out there. In this particular match, I'm running lightweight, toughness, and dexterity with quick draw, stock, and suppressor as a very sort of aggressive class, but that's just one example there. So when it comes down to everything, which one am I going to choose? You have the Scar, it has better base damage and range and a faster reload, versus the AN94, which has that higher damage potential if you can get those first couple shots on target, and the advantage of lower recoil, even though the Scar's I think is still very manageable. So my overall decision here is that for a more skilled player who has really good reaction time, someone who wants to play aggressively at close range, the AN94 is probably going to be your best option. Just make sure to back it up with a pistol or give it a magazine attachment. Now the Scar H is going to be better for wider, more open maps, or for players that like to play a little bit more cautiously. So that's my breakdown for these two weapons. My voice is about to give out because I've been talking a lot today, and this is probably the 4th or 5th time I've tried to run through this commentary. So thank you guys so very much for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time.